going on, everybody? I'm here, Will Turner for Demand the Truth. I'm out of work a little bit early. Figured I'd do my second video, get it done with. This is something that's been I've been thinking about for a while, and just more articles came out and confirmed both this stuff. If you're voting or supporting Trump or Bernie Sanders, you've long missed the ship. You've long missed the boat. That is not acceptable in my opinion. And I'll give you some facts as to why. And we'll start with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is somebody who is a hypocrite because he's voted to authorize use in Afghanistan and Iraq and other places. He's not a candidate of peace. He's authorized bombings, I believe, like 12 different military attacks, at least, or not just attacks, engagements, whatever they want to call it nowadays. So it's not technically a war when you bomb brown people. And Bernie Sanders is also, it's official. I've been saying this for years, but it's official. He's a part of the 1%. He talks about how the 1%, they're so bad. Oh, come to me. Hello. Yes, the 1% are ruining this country, and we gotta do something about the 1%. Well, great. You are the 1%, idiot, so why don't you do something about yourself? Because you never worked a day in your life. You got 3 houses, you got $1 million houses. You are literally part of the 1%, and you have given nothing. You've given max 4% of your donations. The taxes came out. 4% of his donations, but yet Bernie Sanders wants to take your money and let the government who he hates, who he's been rallying against, he somehow magically thinks that they've been so bad for so long, but just give him more money and take your money and donate to charity. But he doesn't donate his money to charity. He wants people to get paid $15 an hour, but he doesn't pay his own people $15 an hour. So, Bernie Sanders, I hate the 1%. I hate those rich assholes, because they're part of the 1%. Well, guess what, idiot? You're part of the 1% too. So what now? So, anybody that supports Bernie Sanders, I mean, it's okay. Sometimes we're all hypocrites in our lives, but I mean, when the number one thing that you're going against, you are part of it, it'd be like, I hate guys that wear faux leather jackets and USA hats, and paintings within the background that's so pretentious. I hate that. Well, guess what? I'm doing that right now. Bernie Sanders is a hypocrite, and he is also voted to murder people. He's also a war criminal. He's not peaceful. He's not Ron Paul. He didn't oppose all this. He's not a peacenik. No, he's a hypocrite. He's a part of the 1%. Thank you, Stephen Barnes. At least somebody likes my impression. You know, I guess the best impression I have is the owl from Bohemian Grove, which is creepy because I can do all impressions of stuff that nobody even knows what it's about. So great. So that's our job here, is to make this uncommon knowledge common, so we don't have to go through this anymore. So that's my little rant about Bernie Sanders and how he's part of the 1% him damn self, and all he does is talk about the 1%, and he is part of the 1%. New York Times today had another article about it. What a frothing hypocrite. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Now let's go on to Donald Trump. And I gave Donald Trump a little more benefit of the doubt than I would an ordinary president, because it seemed like maybe for the first time around, there's some guy that the media actually hates him. And who knows, he says he's going against this thing called the deep state. So, let's see, what's going on. But you know what? He vetoed, and trust me, I've had a lot of problems with him doing a lot of things for years now. He has done some good things. I will give him credit where credit's due on a few things. Sure. But when you veto us getting out of a war, which is not technically even a war, like I said, it's like, what do they call it, a limited military engagement, or it's an unconstitutional act of war, and you veto that, now you're a party to it. I mean, you could say before he inherited these wars, but what about bringing the troops home? What about closing these bases? What happened to, I thought we beat Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and I mean, so I don't know, man. I mean, and Rich Kent, what's your take on me? Hey, Gary Williams, I'm just spitting facts here. I mean, Bernie Sanders is part of the 1%, and he talks about the 1%. So it doesn't make a difference what Rich Kent thinks about me, because I'm just saying that Bernie. Go look it up, New York Times. Just Google it right now. New York Times. Bernie Sanders is part of the 1%. and I hate the 1%. Hypocrite, guy that votes for authorizing bombings. Anybody that votes for authorizing bombings when we haven't been attacked and it's not voted for, I mean, even then, it's still. So then we got Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't end all these foreign wars. First, Bush started these terrible, terrible wars, all over lies about weapons of mass destruction and 9/11. We know we got those weapons of mass destruction somewhere, and they all lied about it. And then Obama said, we're going to stop these unconstitutional wars, we're going to stop the NSA spying. Well, he expanded the wars, he expanded the spying, he expanded jailing journalists and terrorizing journalists and whistleblowers. And then Trump says, oh, we're not going to do what Obama did. Obama ruined this country. Well, no, idiot. Bush ruined the country long before, and there have been many people well before him who've had their hands in this too. So Donald Trump is just continuing the legacy of constant war, constant violence. He's doing work with the Saudi Arabians, and you know, all of this is just military industrial complex nonsense. And you know, there's nobody. And British, by the way, I didn't mean to be upset with you, Gary Williams, because I get this all the time. I get a lot of trolls from my people. Oh, you're an idiot. You're stupid. And I always, or you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, I like what you said about Gina Raimondo, but now you're talking about 9/11. You're losing me here. You're crazy. And I'm just like, I always ask the same thing. What did I say that was factually incorrect? So I'm sorry if I came off to you like that. I'm trying to look for a way to fix it. Well, hey, Gary, we need all the folks we can get from anywhere and everywhere. We need a peaceful rebellion. We need a peaceful resistance to this, because you're absolutely right. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, the two counterculture candidates of 2016, the anti-establishment candidates, what are they? Bernie, he's a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat, and he's a democratic socialist, independent, however you want to term that, however you want to identify this week. But I'm going against the system. I'm going part of the 1%. Hillary Clinton is unfit to be president. I am part of the 1%, and Hillary Clinton should be president. I have no morals, no scruples. I'm part of the 1%, and I vote for bombing. Same thing with Donald Trump. All these people are murderers. These people are murderers. And guess what? If we keep choosing, well, you know, we had to support Hillary because otherwise Trump is going to come in and destroy us. Or we had to support Trump because if not, then Hillary would destroy us. Or we had to support Bush because otherwise Gore, or we had Obama, Romney. Guess what, idiots? They're all part of the same damn club, like George Carlin said. They don't care about you. And guess what? It doesn't make a difference what party, what color, what spray tan, what hair the president has. They are still murdering people. We have military bases all over the world, and now we have Donald Trump saying, I'm against the deep state, I'm against the 1%, and guess what? You're part of the 1%, dogs. And unless you're stopping these wars, and unless you're investigating the Bilderberg Group instead of sending people there like Wilbur Ross and others, unless you're ending the Federal Reserve, you're also part of the deep state, Mr. Trump. So take that. And Bernie Sanders, you're a big a-hole critic, hypocritic yourself. So I'm sorry. I mean, when Bernie Sanders, I'm going to end this right now, but when Bernie Sanders spent his entire career, I hate the 1%, and he's part of the 1%, doesn't give any, he says, oh, we need to pay people $15 minimum wage, but doesn't pay his own people $15 minimum wage. And he votes, like, I believe it was 12 separate times to bomb or have a military engagement. He's a total hypocrite. We need people out here for peace. And guess what? Donald Trump, oh man, I'm going to save the deep state. It's going to be the best. I'm going to take these people on. Well, guess what? You didn't, idiot. The Federal Reserve's still here. The Bilderberg Group's still here. And guess what? You are still voting to, you just vetoed people that wanted to stop a war. Thank you. Mr. Branch, the reason why Bernie is a hypocrite, if you missed the beginning of this video, is because New York Times, I've talked about this before, but New York Times came out with the article today showing that Bernie Sanders, hey, if you want to come on camera and debate this, I'd be more than happy. I've always tried to get anybody that wants to debate or discuss on, but the reason I'm calling Bernie Sanders a hypocrite is because Bernie Sanders always talks about how he hates the 1% and how it's the 1% that are running things and causing problems, but yet Bernie Sanders himself is literally part of the 1%. And he's not giving, Bernie Sanders has 3 houses, $1 million houses. He's not he's not housing migrants in any of those places. No, he's not. He isn't giving away half his money like he said he should. He's not food, sheltering, or clothing anybody. He's driving around in fancy cars. He's part of the 1%. Like, that's a class that's crazy. That's like exactly what Stalin would say. Oh, we're all workers. We're all together. We're all one. But he's rich and he's riding around in whatever he wants. And that's the thing. Like, Bush is a war criminal. Obama is a war criminal. Trump is a war criminal. Bill Clinton is a war criminal. Daddy George Bush is a war criminal. Ronald Reagan sold crack to black people. He also, I mean, do you guys remember good old Ollie North and all this stuff? What about them arming terrorists? Then go back before that. I mean, every single one of these people. When is enough is enough? When are we going to stop choosing the lesser of two evils? Well, if you're, yeah, go ahead, come on, yeah, sure. I'd love to talk to somebody about this. Someone invite on camera, and I'll go through a litany of problems that I have with Bernie. So we'll get right to this. But it'd be good. So thank you, Jeffrey Branch, for joining. Or we're trying to have him added right here, but there's a number of reasons why.
Hi.
Welcome. And how do I say your first name? Should I call you Jeffrey or?
Yeah, you can just call me Jeffrey because that's my given name, but Satya Dev is my spiritual name. So that's the name I go by in my spiritual community, but Jeffrey's the name I go by generally. So.
Okay, I will have to repeat the beginning part. And if you could just turn my volume down a little bit on your end.
Okay, does that sound good? Is that better?
Yeah, I think so.
don't know. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
All right. So
yeah. I only have a few minutes, but I just wanted to come on because I did want to talk about this point that you were bringing up about Bernie and his being part of the 1%, because I definitely think that it's a criticism that is valid, and I definitely think it's a criticism that should be discussed. But I have some points that I would like to make that I feel like are important when we're talking about the conversation of Bernie or any candidate really being a hypocrite when it comes to their policies. I agree with you that George Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and arguably our Congress in general has been war criminals for many, many centuries at this point. So I completely agree. I have no argument on that point. And I would also say that I'm sure that Bernie Sanders, in some of his voting record with as it pertains to the military, has made votes that I'm sure I would call into question, and I would be open to hearing about those. But basically, I just want to say Bernie Sanders is only a part of yes, he is a part of the 1%. Technically, that is true. But you have to look at what he's championing and what he's actually, like, what are his policy beliefs. And so I would agree with you that he's a hypocrite if it were, something like Bernie Sanders is now, he's making all this money, he's super wealthy, he's, just like advancing his own financial wealth and expanding his own family's wealth, and he's not doing anything for anyone, and he's not following his own tax plans, etc. But when we saw Bernie Sanders' taxes recently, what we saw was that he's actually been paying the 26% tax rate, and he's been paying his fair share in taxes. That's number one, which he thinks that the 1% should be doing. And also his policies, he directly believes that the 1% should be taxed in many different ways, and would follow those taxes through if that plan was enacted. So I think it's kind of, I think it's a mischaracterization, because he only got so wealthy in part due to his successful campaign. And he wrote a book after he campaigned in 2016. And that book was highly, like, New York Times bestseller, like super popular book. So he went out and he made money on that. And I don't think, as a democratic socialist, Bernie is against making money or against even capitalism or the idea of free markets. I think that what he's against is people in the 1% bracket making tons and tons of wealth and not giving any of that back to society and not sowing any of that into our community. So I sorry to ramble, but I think that that's important because I think it's a lot wider of a conversation.
I do, and I'm glad that you're willing to have it with me. If you can maybe turn me down a little more, I can turn up
Is that better?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
So yeah, and I definitely agree with you on the point that these large corporations, controlled by the 1%, especially go to the Cayman Islands, go to Ireland, and live at 0%. The thing that I think everybody's missing here, though, is, you said Bernie Sanders paying his 20% like he should. But we went to war over England over 3% on tea. And people forget that. Now we're taxed. And that's just one federal tax, let alone the state tax, the gas tax, the municipal tax, the housing tax, his death tax, all these other taxes. It's nearly 40%. And so the problem with, I think, practically, and I do think that Bernie Sanders assesses some of the problems right. But I feel like if you're just going to tax the rich people more, let's just say it was hypothetically for the sake of argument, it was $1 million. But once you hit over $1 million, you're part of the 1%, if you will, and then we're going to tax you a higher bracket. So the problem for me would be, let's just say I was a rich guy at $999,000. I wouldn't open that extra business there, which would employ other people to do that. Let's just say I wanted to open a burger joint or a fitness club chain or something like that. And I was $999,000 there. That would stop me from opening that up and employing all those other people. Not only that, if I have $999,000 and I know if I make one more grand out the yin-yang, I'm just going to keep doing what all these people do, is go to other countries with my money, open up things there where they can avoid the taxes. So that actually makes, I think that actually makes America weaker. Okay, yeah, I think you're going to do any headphones, brother, because I don't think anybody can really hear us at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I might be able to get some, so hold on 1 second.
Sure. Guys, thank you for bearing with me with this terrible feedback. All right, thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I think I have some that will work. Just give me a second.
All right, guys, bear with me.
Okay.
All right,
is that better?
yes, 100% better. All right, we are back.
Okay.
Great.
So what I wanted to say to your point, so first of all, I believe the marginal tax rate, if it's not $1 million, it's much higher than that. That's the first thing I want to say.
For the sake of argument, but yeah.
Right. So I wanted to say, like, it is much higher than that, and I think the basis of of democratic socialism, at least as I understand it, and the basis of what I myself, as a progressive, am fighting for politically, is a society that works for everyone. And so, essentially, right now you have a situation where people are allowed to make unlimited amounts of money, large sums of money, and as you're saying, stash their money in the Cayman Islands, not pay. We have all these corporations not paying literally a nickel in, in income tax. We have all these issues with companies and corporations taking advantage of our economic system, and with our economic system not being well regulated. So I think that combination has created a situation where the majority of wealth in this country, even though we've gotten more productive, more innovative, and made more money over the last 40 years, the majority of that wealth we've seen has gone to the top 1/10 of 1%. So, as working people, I think what we're looking for is we're looking for policies that create a situation where you don't need, in my opinion, I mean, I'll just throw out a number like you did. In my opinion, right now where I stand living paycheck to paycheck, I don't think you need more than $15 million a year that you make to take care of you, to take care of your family, to take care of your properties, whatever. I'm not going to say that like 15 million is the cap. Maybe it's 30 million, maybe it's 100 million. But the reality is there comes a point in dollars where you only need so much to live a beautiful, bountiful life. And I think what we're seeing is all of these wealthy people making a lot of money and then investing that money, putting it into stocks, putting it into trusts for their children, et cetera, investing in real estate. And that money never goes back into our economy and stimulates it. So I think by taxing the wealthy is only one path and one specific set of tools towards the economic vision that we're looking for as democratic socialists and as progressives. That's one arm of it, but it's not the only arm. I think we also need to deal with regulation, and we have to deal with being able to make companies and corporations pay the
All right,
taxes that
I'm
they
gonna
owe.
interrupt you on that
You
point
know,
for a second. I think the real solution here is uh is actually apolitical. It's not a Democrat, Republican, Democratic, Socialist. It is ending the Federal Reserve. I mean, I don't even necessarily believe in the Constitution as a very perfect document. However, the Federal Reserve is illegal, unconstitutional. So is the IRS
I
document.
agree.
And that is the problem. That is the reason why, I mean,
The
you
Federal Reserve is a huge issue. I
yeah,
agree with you.
it's absolutely the biggest issue because they print our money. They're the reason we're almost $22 trillion in debt, the majority of it. They've never, ever been audited, ever.
Yeah, I'm very aware of their. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
heinous,
and to me, that's the
heinous
thing. Now, here's
institution.
where I think we disagree, and I'd like to discuss this more with you briefly. So I actually have, at first, I guess for the majority of my awakened life, I guess I would consider myself a libertarian. However, the last
Hmm.
3 years, I have really adopted the ideology of anarchy. And anarchy doesn't mean like guys in black masks throwing Molotov cocktails. It just doesn't mean no rules. It just means no rulers. And the reason I've adopted that is because, and this is another one of my criticisms with anybody, Democrat or Republican, is government has killed more people. It's called democide than even the church the last 100 years. And I don't think that a government that has all these illegal wars, destroys the rights of our citizens, illegally spies on us, sells our data, keeps contracts with people that traffic kids, and knowingly give black people syphilis. I mean, go on and on, rounded up their own citizens, gave people smallpox. Excuse me, but I don't think that those people should determine my health care. I don't think that those people, I think that even if they make a policy I think that government is so inherently immoral that it's actually an immoral thing. So no matter what the government tries to do, even if it's a good intention behind it, and even if it still does some good, I would argue in every case that good is outweighed by the bad. And I think I could go on to debate that. I think government was a necessary step, if you will, in our evolution as awakening, I guess, to our conscious minds. But I don't think that giving the same corrupt government more money and more power to solve an issue is ever going to save anything at this point. What would you say to counter that, or do you
So,
agree,
so
disagree?
well, I'd start with where we agree, which is that um, there's no, the last thing you just said, the last sentence you just said about um, the fact that you don't want to give a very corrupt entity more power and more money. So, like, we'll start with that. I 100% agree that we should not give a corrupt government more power and more money. And what we have right now is a corrupt system. I think where we disagree is how we choose to address that. And I want to kind of unpack quickly my perspective on how I address these issues. I also, at one point in my life, identified as a libertarian. And so I no longer identify as libertarian. I don't identify as a Democrat. I don't identify as a Republican. I identify as a progressive and as an independent thinker. That's how I identify. And depending on the year and the candidates, that will depend on how I register in my local area to vote. But in any case, as a progressive, I think that the way that I choose to engage these issues, it's really ideologically great to say that, you know, you believe that government is no longer necessary in our evolution, or that we've come to a point where we need to move beyond a governmental system ruling over us, etc. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that from an ideological standpoint, because I don't think philosophically that government is the be all end all. I don't think government should be deified. I'm not super patriotic or into like the idea that like an institutional government is just such a beautiful, great thing. But what I would say is that we have so many people in this country right now who are suffering, and so many people in this country who are marginalized. We have people of color, we have poor people, we have differently abled people, we have all sorts of marginalized groups in our country, immigrants, refugees, veterans, who are suffering. And I think that as ideologically, you know, enjoyable as it is to say that we don't need the government, or we don't want to give that government any more power because we're afraid that they will exploit us, I think the answer is forcing that government to be the representative entity that it originally intended and says that it is. Because our government is not representative of us. You know that, I know that, we all know that are, you know, in these movements. We see that our government is not representative, but it's supposed to be. And so on a local level and on a federal level, what I'm trying to do, and what people like me, I think, are trying to do, is fight to aggressively, radically, in a move of from the grassroots level, not from the top down, but from the grassroots, the working people of this country, the marginalized people of this country, coming together, standing together and saying, no, like this government, this situation, this institution is not going to make us slaves and take our money and continue to keep us poor and working. This system is going to work for us, and we're going to make it work for us through these legislative policy actions. Now, as an activist, I work with Antifa, I work with anarchists, I work with communists, I work with progressive Democrats. So there are lots of ideological and philosophical ideas under the umbrellas in which I work. So I think there's a place for all these. What you're saying, I think there's a place for that argument in our political system, but I don't think that the answer is to throw up our hands and say that we can't, through government, fix a lot of these issues that people are facing, because I truly believe we can, and I believe we've seen movement on some issues, specifically Medicare for all, healthcare in general. We've seen, whereas in 2016 these ideas were seen as fringe and never going to happen, now we see the entire Democratic Party and all these establishment, you know.
And so I'll counter you on that. This would be you could go right down the line from every part of policy. Medicare for all, I think, is absolutely. I think government-run healthcare in general is absolutely terrible, because what we've done is we've completely allowed big pharma and because it's not real healthcare. Like, I mean, forget if the government's doing it or not. The government has only allowed in their even before the government run healthcare, they work specifically with the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation, with the University of Chicago, and these people.
I'm very aware of like the corruption within the pharmaceutical industries and the medical industry complex in general.
And so, I mean, honestly, like now, if hypothetically, if the government was administering real health care, that would be one story. But I mean, the thing is, America is not administering real health care, and we supposedly have the best doctors, the best health care, the best hospitals, but we have the most cancer, the most obesity, the most autism.
We pay the highest for drugs of any country.
And then, and drugs don't ever solve anything. They just cover up the symptoms. And yeah. So
you're talking to someone who's very into Ayurvedic medicine and holistic approach to health.
So that's my argument to you is if the government was was even offering half holistic or even part of that was acceptable, then I would say, hell, okay, then maybe I would be with you for Medicare for all. But what they're offering now is radiation, big pharma, large insurance companies, and I don't think that's really helping people. It's just making us the most sick country in the world while we have access to the best care. I do agree that we do need to, regardless of, I think we can go ahead and have that philosophical debate, when we get there. But I do agree with you. What you say is while we are still paying these politicians, because there's a lot of anarchists and libertarians saying, oh, why are you even going after DCYF? Like, it's a state-run agency. Da, 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 da. Like, okay, but
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But at the same time, though, like, I agree with you on this. We're going to hold their feet to the fire because, you know what? It would be great to live in a socialist utopia or an anarchist utopia. But in the meantime, we're still paying these representatives. We're still paying DCYF.
Correct.
And if we're
still paying
them,
taxes.
Exactly. So if we're paying them, we better get the best health care. We better know where our damn kids are. So, yeah, I'm totally
No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. I would say, too, though.
Go ahead.
I would say, just to counter your point on the Medicare for all thing, like, it is a very privileged position to be in, both you and both myself, for us to be able to say, like, oh, like, we can choose, like, how we approach our health, and also, like, we can choose, because we're young and we're healthy, whether or not to, have holistic preventative medicine, etc. But I think that a lot of people find themselves with pre-existing conditions. A lot of people find themselves in just need of a doctor. Like, for instance, I have health insurance, but I recently had to go to the dentist, and to go get the surgery that I need to get, I have to pay out of pocket because my insurance company doesn't pay for it. So the reality is, like, I need that surgery, I'm going to get that surgery, and if we had the healthcare that every other developed nation in the world except for us had, I would be able to go get it, and it would be nothing out of my pocket.
All right,
so the reality is,
my counter to that,
like,
would be,
you have to, some people need the services that Western medicine are providing in order to live or be healthy. And so I think it's very privileged to say, like, oh, well, like, Medicare for all doesn't work. It's like some people don't even have health care, and they just are sick and need to see a doctor. And they should be able to. That should be
and I think this comes down to a couple things. Well, one, the first thing is, if we had our money correct from the Federal Reserve, we wouldn't have to be worrying about our healthcare choices in the first place, and we wouldn't have to be doing this. But, that's something that I hear a lot, too, that, in every other great country in the world, they have healthcare. Well, people.
Every other developed nation in the world offers healthcare to their citizens for free.
Yeah, England has state-run healthcare, and people die in the waiting rooms all the time. And then they say, "Hey, we don't have enough money." And how many? Even just 2 babies made the mainstream news last year that their parents couldn't even take them to another doctor. They were literally 2 different families made the national news. That they couldn't even take their own children out of the hospital to give them any other care. They had to sit there and let the state murder the child was born perfectly, but they said, no, you can't go over there. So
yeah, but that's kind of anecdotal.
What?
It's a little, that's an anecdotal example, though, because I think the majority...
It happened actually multiple times. And so my thing is this, right? So sure, you want people to have health care, right? Doesn't everybody?
I think no. I don't want people to have. I mean, I do want people to have health care, but I think everyone, like, this is what I think. I think every single human being in America, anywhere actually, but in America because that's where we are, any American citizen who is sick should be able to see the doctor and receive health care, whether they are poor, rich, have a job, don't have a job, have a pot to piss in, don't have a pot to piss in. If you are an American citizen, I believe it is your human right to receive health care because we have the health care services to do so.
Okay, so let's just walk this through practically. So we're setting up a country right now. We're $0 in debt. You go and get health care. Where does that? We're already $22 trillion in debt. Where are we going to get the money to pay? I mean, because it's just taxes. It's our money that we're paying back into the system. So
So the way it would work in theory is that, like, right now you pay taxes. And right now when you pay taxes and you get your paycheck, you see how much taxes you paid, but you don't see, like, if we lived in Denmark and you got your paycheck, it would say, here's how much you have given in taxes, like $200 in taxes. And this much percent of it went to education, this much percent of it went to your healthcare, this much percent of it went to the military, this much percent of it, and it breaks it all down for the citizens. Here we don't have that. So right now you're paying taxes, and your tax money, you
Let
don't
me
know where
ask
the
you
hell
just
it's
a very,
going.
very basic question. Would you rather have a corrupt government take taxes out to force her to spend on big pharma Medicare, or
That's
would you
not how it
rather
would work,
wait,
though.
hear
That's
me out,
not
hear
how
me
it would
out.
work, though. But
Well,
that's
hear me
not how
out
it would
though.
work.
I mean, well, that's how it's working. I mean, the thing is
Because
because
Medicare for all isn't big pharma. Like you're not, the two aren't together. Actually, big pharma is actually very much against Medicare for all because it would affect their drug costs
okay,
and it
so
would make private insurance
as a
companies completely
practical,
obsolete.
okay, so as a practical question, do you think that you or your government knows what's best for you, particularly, Jeff?
I think that I know what's best for me.
Okay, so that's my argument here. So, would you rather give your money away to a government that is not directly accountable to you and let them make your healthcare choices, or would you rather not have that money taxed and have that money, instead of taking out of your paycheck, in your own hands, and you can choose to do whatever you want with it? You can do holistic, you can do traditional, you can do both. Would you prefer to have the choice, or would you rather have the government take that choice from you and spend it on what they want?
I would rather the government. I would rather pay a little bit more in taxes and pay nothing in co-pays for healthcare, nothing in any insurance premiums.
Well, wait,
I
wait,
would
stop,
rather
stop. This
pay
is
a
important,
little.
right? This is
I would
important
rather
because
pay. I would rather. Hold on, let me finish though. I'd rather pay a little bit more in taxes and have that tax money used for when I'm sick than have to pay for health insurance premiums, pay for a copay even though I have insurance when I go to the doctor, and possibly not be able to get the surgery or medicines or things that I need because they're not even covered by private insurance.
so
So
what I'm
Medicare
saying
for
to
all
you
would
is
actually
instead
make
of
private
in,
insurance obsolete.
so what my argument to you is the same as it was just a moment ago, which is instead of giving it to the corrupt government to hold on to, why not just keep it in your pocket until you actually need it, instead of paying the government tithes every month or
But that's
so?
not. But Will, in all honesty, because I hear what you're saying, but in all honesty, like that's literally not how it works. Because for instance, right now as it stands, if I don't have health insurance and I have that money quote in my pocket and the government doesn't have it, and I get sick and I have to go to the hospital, it's extremely expensive for medication. It's extremely expensive to even get seen by a doctor without health care. So all of a sudden, I can't even pay with the money I have in my pocket because it's nowhere near enough to get the services I need. So I don't think that holds weight because there's not really an opportunity. It's not like, here, give the government money for healthcare or keep it
So
yourself and you'll be able to use
original
it.
that goes to my original point is you're damned if you do get it and you're damned if you don't, because either way you're going to pay, and I think we both agree here, an exorbitant fee. You're going to pay $400 to $900 for a bag of salt water. It's crazy.
I don't agree with that.
You don't think that's gonna, a bag of salt water cost $400 to $900?
No, what
I
I'm
don't.
saying, no, I know what saline solution is. I'm saying that like I don't think that that's actually what's going to happen. What I'm saying is like if someone needs something, they're gonna get it and they won't have to pay extra for it. Like if I need medication, instead of having to pay pharmaceutical drug costs, the medication, the medical, the that will be covered by my Medicare. So like I won't be paying extra for salt water if I don't want
Yeah,
to.
but the thing is, the money from your Medicare comes from your taxes, right? So
Yes.
so the money always has to come from somewhere. So whether you're paying it directly yourself or you're paying it to the government, it's
But
still
you're
going to
already
be.
paying the government. You're already paying the government and you're getting nothing for it except military budgets. So wouldn't you rather have the money that you're already paying to the government go towards healthcare and infrastructure? Or would you rather that money go towards more bombs and more big machines that we don't need and more airplanes? Like that's the point. The
Well,
point is that
and
your money is
that's
already
my
being
point that I said at the
taken.
beginning, which is this government is incapable because the fact that they are so murderous. I mean, these same people said they were giving black people health care, gave them syphilis. These same
I'm
people
very
said,
aware of the corruption of our government. 100% we are on the same page
so
with that.
why would you
But what I'm
want
saying is
these
that our
murderers?
government needs to.
Why would you want
Can I
these
say?
murderers running your health care?
Well, I think the thing is like we agree that the government is completely corrupt, but what has corrupted the government? Money and private industry, like the oil and gas companies, like the medical, like the private insurance companies. So what I'm saying to you is like instead of like the government is corrupt because they are owned by private industries that are against the everyday working person. So what we need to do is take our government back. Well, now that may, for an anarchist like yourself, that may mean that we're actually going to take the government back and then have no government. But for a progressive like me, it means that we are going to work at the grassroots level to continue to hold people's feet to the fire and continue to make this government work for us. That's our way of attacking this. And I fully support like anarchists and communists and everyone else's political ideologies, libertarians, attacking in their own way what they need to get what they need as people. But like the way we're going about it is making the government work for us. And I think you have to remember, like, you are a very privileged person, as am I. Like, I'm also very privileged. And the fact that we can sit here on our smart devices and have a debate, you know, we're very privileged, and so many people aren't in that position. And so those people that aren't in this position deserve access to health care. They deserve a minimum wage that allows them to live if they're working 40 hours a week and not live in poverty. So, like, there are certain basic things that I think we would agree on, and I just think we disagree about how
I'll
to
tell
get
you what.
there.
See, so and there's so many things that we agree on, and there's actually so many that we disagree on. However,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like what you just said to me, like, you know, there's a lot of things that you say that I don't agree with, but you know, I have an open mind. So if you give me more information, maybe I can change my mind. And at the end of the day, you are somebody that's out there, and at the end of the day, we can definitely agree on this: is we gotta, while they're still there, we gotta make them work for us the best that
Absolutely.
they can, and hold them
Absolutely.
accountable. And we're working. And don't get me wrong. While I have a government, unfortunately, I'm working to make it the best that we can. And what you said is absolutely right. We need to hold these people accountable. We need to hold their feet to the fire, and we need to call things out for what they are. And most importantly, too. And I have somebody outside waiting for me. But Jeff, I would like to.
No, I actually have to go too.
Yeah,
But
I would like to not only, I'm going to definitely take you up and take you out for a beer or two, and we're going to have some even more in-depth chats. And I encourage with everybody, but I'd love you to come back too and discuss more of these topics with us, because I think, you know, like at the end of the day, me and you just had a great conversation. We didn't get too in-depth into everything, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we had a good conversation. Right. I hope you don't hate me now. I definitely don't hate you.
no.
And I think
Well, no, like
so,
that's there's no like there's no negativity at all, and I
that's
actually
the
think
point.
we have
And-
to
and
talk
we-
about things.
Exactly. And that's why I want to
Yeah.
invite you back on anytime, because we should take topics, one at a time, and talk about them with everybody, and talk about all the pros and cons and get it all out there, because that's the only way we're going to move forward as a culture.
Right.
So I'm going to let
agree.
you go, Jeff. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for everything that you do, your perspective. Everybody out there, thank you for watching. And let's hold all these Democrats, Republicans, whatever they call themselves, let's hold them accountable, because all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing. And what Jeff said is so important. We all are privileged. I did a video the other day. Half the world lives off $2 a day. People in other countries don't even have freedom of speech. They're counting on us and our smartphones to do something and speak out. So speak out. Thank you, Jeff. Take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow.